Rip City Mornings.
Guest. Apparently there's a lot of binge drinking going on in and around Autzen Stadium, which, you know what? You get 80 degrees in April? Makes a lot of sense to me. Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor, joins us on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I finally shook off the proximity hangover I had to all the students on Saturday. So feeling good this Wednesday.
All right, so let's talk about this real quick because I have been known to have a few beverages in and around Autzen Stadium, and I have also, while I am not the most tech savvy guy, Tyson, I am on the TikToks. I am full on addicted to the TikTok. So I knew of this drink that you wrote about, that the college kids, it is all the rage. But you learned apparently about the Borg on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what caught me off guard because I'm on the talks too. You know, I'm hip with it, as the kids say. I'd never heard of these before. I ran into a couple of my friends at Autzen. I was taking a lap in the second quarter. You know, the corridor, we're a publication of the people. We thought we'd go see some of the people, you know, downstairs from where we usually sit. And I ran into a couple of my friends, and they were like, "Dude, we saw the coolest thing." And they went on to explain the dozens of milk jugs they saw outside of Autzen that had names such as like Marcus Borg Yoga and Borgen, and there was a couple other ones. But apparently, it's just an eloquent mixture of half water, half booze, some electrolyte mix, and whatever color of your choice. And no, it's what the kids are doing these days. Kids will be all right. You know, when I was their age, yes, you know, we were just trying to directly contribute to the local economy. You know, we would drink our Four Locos or you know, one stop shop type of drinks. But I admire the creativity of this group because there was a lot of colors, there was a lot of names, and looked like a lot of people were having fun on Saturday.
Yeah, at first, right, it is a bit shocking. You see a bunch of kids with a bunch of milk jugs full of their own whatever concoction, but then you mentioned it, back in your day, back in my the amount of times, Tyson, I took a random cup and took some sort of punch out of a cooler that I did not know what was in there. I did not know who mixed it. But randomly just went ahead and scooped it in there without any thought or process. This seems like a bit more safe option, though. It seems ridiculous, but in the analytics of the drinking world, probably a little bit more safer than showing up at random house party and going into the corner and drinking whatever rum punch concoction that some guy I don't even know made.
Yeah, your experience sounds like a Dare skit gone wrong or something. You know, and just this is what you don't do, gentlemen. You don't show up to the random house and stick your hand into the bowl full of random pills and just have at it.
No pills though. It was a jungle juice, is what I was told. Now at this random house.
Oh man.
Yeah, at this random house that was I think it might have been just off of 18th. And at that night were Luke Ridnour and Luke Jackson there at this house party on their recruiting trips as high schoolers. And did I drunkenly give a recruiting pitch? Maybe, possibly. Could have happened. It was a crazy time, Tyson. It was the early 2000s.
Every house has their own like jungle juice mixer, and everyone treats them like a world-renowned chemist. Like, oh, on 18th, they got a guy. He makes the mixture just right. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe your recruiting pitch is the reason why. I don't know. I'm trying to triangulate what years you were in college here and what reference I can make, but I'm struggling with that. So
it's a vast. The years I was in college, it's some fuzzy math. Let's just put it at that. All right. Tyson Alger joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's talk about the spring game. I kind of like you. I I took nothing in terms of the football from the spring game, but just the way it looked on TV. Now, you were there. I watched it on TV. It seemed like it was a good 90-minute Dan Lanning of, hey, look how awesome we are. And obviously the weather cooperated, but kind of pulled it off again. We talked about the evolution of the spring game, but it seemed like this was a big 90 minutes of, hey, everybody across the country and recruits here, look how awesome we are.
Yeah, and I remember them kind of pulling this off last spring too, and it kind of feeling like I think I wrote that like they, how hard it was for them to pull that off last year, considering them being the new staff and the pressure and all the moving pieces. Like it felt pretty easy this year. I mean, like I know I'm grouch number one when it comes to like what the spring game's evolved into in terms of what it's just being used as like a recruiting showcase. But between the casual 45,000 that they said were there, the fact that for the most part you know what's going to happen on the football field with this team, and just the weather even cooperating, like it just seems like a group and a team that is comfortable with what it's doing. Like they I think Oregon knows it's going to be pretty good next year. I just still don't think that you can answer some of the questions that you need in the spring game. But yeah, I mean, if I'm landing, like that couldn't have gone any better, just from like the weather to the performances to the how many people showed up to the fact that there weren't any people running onto the field because of boards. Yeah, it was a great Saturday.
Well, and that was the other thing. We talked about this earlier in the week, and I can already hear the Oregon State fans that maybe still are listening to this segment rolling their eyes. But I do think when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to building up a program, even though this game means nothing, the statistics from this game are not kept. Nothing about this will translate into the regular season. But the fact that you can show that your fan base, albeit on a 78-degree day in April, but your fan base shows up, cares, and I think that is as big of a pitch to recruiting as NIL is, as potential fit, coaching staff. The fact that you have a fan base and a culture that will show up 40,000 plus in April for a game that doesn't matter, I think that is a huge boost, especially on some of the other numbers and some of the other pictures of other team spring games, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the biggest national college football story of the spring has been Colorado and all the attention that Deion's brought over there. And oh my gosh, they brought 48,000 to their spring game, which is an incredible number, especially considering where they've been. But that was like the crown jewel of the spring, and Oregon nearly matched that number. And it didn't really seem like they tried all that hard to do it. Like you can go up and down the West Coast and see other programs that haven't approached the spring in the same way Oregon has. Up in Seattle, I think it was probably 3,000 to 6,000 people at Husky Stadium, which Oregon fans were happy to kind of dance on and point out. At the same time, the Huskies averaged more attendance than the Ducks did last season, and they do have a bigger stadium. But yeah, it's just there are some programs that treat spring like it's like it used to be. It's just 15 practices and we get through it, and it's a time for the team to get together and then we move on. And other teams have turned it into that, plus this being kind of like their whole recruiting showcase. And especially since the Crystal Ball era and the Ducks have really morphed into a team that prioritizes talent acquisition, the spring games have been really, really important for Oregon. And they're the Athletic didn't send 15 reporters to do a play-by-play of every single move in the spring game like they might have at Boulder, but the Ducks were right there in terms of attendance-wise and in terms of interest, and it's pretty impressive the continuity Oregon's been able to have, just in terms of every year it seems like they're between 30 to this year 40-something thousand for the spring game.
Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And as I said at the beginning of the segment, Tyson, I don't draw a lot of conclusions from the spring game, but I would say if we look at maybe the biggest winner other than Dan Lanning and the program in terms of players on the field, I think Ty Thompson had a good day and kind of needed to have a good day. I would imagine, because the last we saw of Ty Thompson was that failed fourth down play against Washington, and obviously a lot of Oregon fans being very, very vocal, both positively and then negatively about him. Comes in, maybe throws the ball backwards in his first pass attempt. Don't know. Thought that was a nice little, hey, this is a scrimmage. Let's just have it be an incomplete pass. But then settled in, had himself a nice afternoon. And I think of all the guys on this team that maybe needed to have one, I thought he was the guy, and good for him for having one.
I think, as you said, settled in it's the right word, because being a backup quarterback, especially at Oregon, which has had some pretty darn good starting quarterbacks over the last 20 years, you rarely get that time to just like get a rhythm or get into just get into the zone. You think about Ty Thompson's appearances, like last year, it's like, hey, this is the most important play against Washington. This is your first important series of your career. Go for it, make a play. And it just seems like everything's been so magnified with Ty, and just, especially compounded with his recruiting ranking, that, it was just nice to see him be able to like shake off a few bad plays and to like get some of that rust and those expectations and settle into a game. And in that second half, he made some really great throws. Like you definitely saw some of the athleticism and the potential of the reason why we've talked about Ty Thompson so much. And I've seen performances in spring games that are too good to believe. Jeff Locke looked really good in the spring game in 2015, but just in terms of Ty Thompson, I thought this was really important just to get some positive tape down, to let the fans be able to see something and be like, okay, like we can believe this out of him. I thought that was kind of the main takeaway was like, I think Oregon's going to be decent at backup quarterback this year. I still don't know if Ty Thompson's going to, come away and win the starting job next year and end up being an all-conference type of guy, but I think he can be a competent backup at this point.
By the way, I do love Oregon football Twitter, full on like 2024 quarterback debate after Saturday's game that erupted on my phone. I may have went into a deeper dive than I should. Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Tyson, you said it, and I agree with you with the corridor. You are of the people. You are, as you pointed out on Twitter, the only publication to go to every spring game here in the state of Oregon of Division I football. And you also got a chance to, now I left the friendly, cushy confines of the press box a couple of years ago, and I sit in very cushy seats on the other side because I have a very successful wife. But you watched a good chunk of the game from the north side, which, as somebody who grew up going to Autzen Stadium, on a good day, Tyson, that is Sunburn Alley, and you found that out, I think, the hard way.
Dude, it just took me like a lap. Like I was thinking about this. I've been going to Autzen for 10 years now, and so that's 50 plus games or so. And I've never once watched a play from any of the stands, right? The seats. It's just always either in the press box or on the way down to the field. And so I was like, you know what? Well, my original idea was, let's go full investigative journalism here and get tanked for this spring game and write a first-person perspective of enjoying myself at a spring game. But I had a concert to go to later that night with Bill Oram up in Portland, and figured that might be a long day. I mean, the corridor is not about endurance here, and so we decided to pack it just into one single lap. And the cool thing from seeing the stadium from that other side is you don't quite from the press box, you don't quite appreciate how big that south grandstand is or how high you are up there, and looking from the other side. Autzen definitely just looks like it was scooped out of the ground, man. It's a pretty deep and tall section there, and it was fun to watch from that side, and it was fun to see how impressive the press box looks from over there. Like, man, I live on a throne. Like people must think that we're pretty darn important being that high up there.
It is aptly described as yes, sitting up on the throne, sitting up in some would say ivory tower, maybe with a little bit of judgment. Don't know who would have said that, but neither here nor there. Before we let you go, Tyson, I wanted to ask you about this story. This has nothing to do with sports. We talked about it earlier in the show.
Perfect.
Because maybe you have also had some kind of an experience up in your home state of Alaska, but did you see that Wisconsin is now going to allow teenagers as young as 14 to start serving alcohol in bars?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. 14-year-old bartenders in Wisconsin. And so I was, and we had this discussion about, you know, as a bar patron myself, I don't know if I want a 14 or 15-year-old making my drink or tending the bar. But then I thought, you know, if there's ever a state that has 14-year-olds ready to be bartenders, it would be Wisconsin. And then I thought, yeah, I bet you Alaska probably would do pretty well, too, as a 14, 15-year-old. Probably pretty comfortable behind a bar.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, 14, 15, that's your veterans up there at that point. It's kind of funny in that happening in Wisconsin, though. You know, I'm just trying to think of the downfalls of a big beer drinking state like that. Like, you know, you probably can't ask, like, you know, which IPA is better. Then again, you're probably not drinking a whole lot of IPAs in Wisconsin. It's like, which one of these Busch Lights is funkier?
Which beer are we boycotting this month? That's what you have to ask. Wait, no, don't want to dive into that one. Also, one last thing, just from a content perspective, because you covered Dillon Brooks in his time. He's been dumped by the Memphis Grizzlies. They broke up with him. They broke up with him on in public, like a public breaking up. Like, if Taylor Swift, we are never getting back together. Dillon Brooks. So from a content perspective, Tyson, how 1 to 10, Dillon Brooks, a Blazer. From a content perspective, where's that at?
Oh, let's go 10.
Yeah.
Like, because you know, like I'm anti them getting Draymond, and so, but I'd rather have Draymond than Dillon. So that means they'll probably get Dillon. But just the if you would have told me back in 2016 that like Dillon Brooks was going to have a 6-year NBA career that was going to flame out entirely because of LeBron James, awesome. I didn't think he was going to be in the show for more than like a year or two. So, I mean, I guess good for Dillon for making it as far as he did. But man, like talk about the wrong person to decide to throw it all in again.
It is going to be fascinating, by the way. And I don't think Dillon Brooks is really a possibility. But if, let's say, Draymond Green, like, the amount of things Blazer fans are going to have to take back if either one of those dudes suits up for the Blazers next year is going to be fascinating. You know, at the time, I meant this, but that was at the time.
We'll create an open forum on the corridor where people can come in and get their sorries out of the way, and then we'll call it a clean slate. We'll call it a clean slate from there. The corridor will help facilitate this clean relationship between franchise and fans. Let's make it happen.
There it is. Well, the only way you're going to be able to find that is on the I-5 corridor. You need to subscribe to it. Also follow him at Tyson Alger on Twitter. Hey, Tyson, thanks so much. Have a terrific rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.